I never believed in hauntings. Ghost stories were the domain of people with too much time and overactive imaginations. The idea that the dead could reach out from wherever they were, assuming they were anywhere at all, always seemed like sentimental nonsense. But that changed last November, on a night when the air was cold enough to make my windows cry with condensation, and my phone rang with a number I had buried long ago. I was living alone in a small apartment in Allerton, a quiet part of town that was cheap because of how isolated it was. The building itself was old, not charming old, but neglected old. The walls carried the yellow tint of 1,000 past cigarettes, and the floorboards creaked like they were protesting my existence. It suited me, honestly. I was between jobs, trying to freelance while working on some design gigs, and the solitude was welcome. Most nights passed uneventfully. I worked late, ordered crap food, and watched horror movies without irony. It started with a missed call. I had been asleep, not deeply, but that in-between state where the line between dream and waking life thins. The phone buzzed once, then twice, then again. I checked the time. 3:12 a.m. I groaned, turning over and grabbing the phone from my nightstand. The screen glared in my face with an unfamiliar number, 432-1185. I didn't answer, of course. I never answer unknown numbers, especially not in the middle of the night. I assumed it was spam or some scammer with poor timing. Still, something about it unsettled me. The area code was local, but I didn't recognize it. I let it go to voicemail and turned the phone face down, trying to fall back asleep. In the morning, I checked the voicemail out of idle curiosity. There was only static. No voice, no background noise, just a low, shuddering static that seemed to pulse in and out like breathing. It lasted 12 seconds and cut off abruptly. I listened to it twice, then a third time, waiting for something, anything to break the silence. But it remained the same, just that grainy, suffocating noise. I deleted it and forgot about it. Or at least I tried to. That same night, the number called again. This time, it rang only once before stopping, as if whoever or whatever was on the other end had changed its mind. No voicemail followed, and I figured it was just some automated system glitching out. But I made the mistake of Googling the number. There were no results. Not on any lookup site. Not in any reverse phone directory. Not even a thread on Reddit or some sketchy forum talking about spam numbers. It was like the number didn't exist at all. On a whim, I checked my old phones. I had two in my drawer, the ones I used in college and right after. Both were dead, but I charged them just to see if anything showed up. The second one, a busted old Android, had a call history that stopped 2 years ago. But buried in the missed calls, I saw something that made my stomach twist. 432-1185. Missed call. March 3rd, 2:14 a.m. That couldn't be. I didn't even remember having that phone in 2021. And that number. It felt wrong. I checked the contact list. Nothing. I tried opening old voicemails, but they were all deleted. Still, the missed call remained there, unchanging like a scar. That night it called again. I sat in bed, staring at the phone as it rang. My room was completely dark aside from the glow of the screen, which felt unusually bright. My hand hovered over the screen. Something inside me, curiosity, dread, arrogance, made me answer. There was silence. I didn't speak. I held the phone in my ear, listening hard, but all I could hear was a low hum, like the sound you get when you turn your speakers up with nothing playing. Then, faintly, something else, a voice. Not speaking, whispering. It said my name. Not loudly, not angrily, just directly, intimately. Eli. My full name isn't something most people use. I go by Eli, short for Elijah, but only my mother and an old friend who passed used to say it like that. Drawn out. Careful. I hung up. I sat there, heart pounding, phone trembling in my hand. My apartment was dead silent. Not even the fridge made its usual hum. I got up, turned all the lights on, and checked every room. Nothing. Everything looked normal, maybe too normal, like someone had arranged it all while I was out and tried too hard. I barely slept that night. The next day, I went through all my contacts just in case. Nothing out of place. But then I checked my call history again, and the number was gone. Not just the call from last night, but every time it had shown up. It had erased itself. I called my carrier. They checked the logs. There's no record of that number calling you, the woman on the other end told me. Are you sure it wasn't a spam filter or block call? I said no, that I had the number. I had seen it. I had answered it. I understand, sir, she said gently, as if I were unstable. But I'm not seeing anything in your call records from 3 a.m. or at any other time from that number. I thanked her and hung up, knowing what I heard, knowing what I felt. That night, I didn't sleep in my bed. I stayed on the couch with the lights on, my phone on silent and face down. Still, at 3:13 a.m., the screen lit up, illuminating the room. 432-1185. Incoming call I didn't answer. But this time a voicemail came through. I let it sit for an hour before listening. My hand shook as I held the phone to my ear. There was a voice. A real one. Not static this time. It was a woman. Crying. Saying a name over and over. Not mine. Someone else's. A name I didn't know. Stephen. Stephen, please. Stephen, come back. She sounded afraid. The kind of fear that wraps itself around your throat. She whispered something at the end, so quietly I had to listen again with headphones on. She said, "He's behind the glass. Don't let him hear you." Then it ended. I deleted the voicemail, but it came back. Every time I deleted it, it returned a few minutes later. Same timestamp, same file name. Voicemail from unknown. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall, screen cracking in the corner. I pulled the SIM card, tossed the phone in a drawer, and swore I'd buy a new one the next day. But when I opened the drawer the following morning, the phone was gone. In its place was a scrap of paper. On it, scrawled in what looked like old, fading ink, was a phone number. 432-1185, and beneath it, a message. Answer next time, or he'll come to you. I should have left. I should have packed a bag, walked away from that cursed apartment, and thrown my phone into the river. But I didn't. I stayed because I was too tired, too stubborn, and still convinced on some delusional level that all of this could be explained away. A prank, a phone glitch, an overworked imagination fueled by too much caffeine and sleep deprivation. But deep down, I knew something had changed. Something old had reached through the veil. And it wasn't done with me. The scrap of paper stayed on my desk for days. I didn't throw it out. I couldn't. Every time I tried to crumple it up or burn it, I'd blink, and it would be back where it was flat, unburnt, exactly as I first found it. I tried to film it disappearing or test it with friends, but no one else ever saw it. When I showed the desk to my friend Jeremy, the only one I trusted enough to talk about this, he said there was nothing there but a coffee ring and a few receipts. He laughed it off, of course. Dude, maybe you need to take a break from all the spooky Reddit threads. But there was something else I hadn't told him. The calls had stopped. The number no longer showed up at 3:13 a.m. No missed calls, no voicemails. Instead, my phone began doing something far worse. It started repeating things I hadn't said. The first time I noticed it, I was on a call with my sister, Maya. I hadn't told her much, just that I was having trouble sleeping and thought someone might have spoofed my number. "I'm just saying you should stay at Mom's for a few days," she said, "or come down to Jersey. You sound off." I try to laugh, play it down. It's probably nothing. Just weird tech stuff. Or maybe I'm going nuts. But then, as I was about to say goodbye, I heard myself say something else. Only I hadn't spoken. Over the phone, my voice said, "It's cold in here." "He's in the walls." Maya went silent. I froze. "What? What did you just say?" she asked. Her voice was suddenly tight, uneasy. I didn't say anything. That wasn't me. "You. It sounded just like you, Eli. You said someone was in your walls." I swear I didn't. I checked the call log, hoping to find something that would explain it, but it only showed the current call. She asked if I was okay, and I lied. Of course I lied. What the hell else was I supposed to say? That night, I dreamed about the paper. In the dream, I was lying in my bed but couldn't move. My limbs were heavy, as if filled with lead. Something shuffled under the bed, slow, deliberate clawed. I tried to scream, but my mouth was sealed shut. I watched, helpless, as the mattress rose slightly. Then something thin and gray pressed against the underside of the sheet. Not a hand, a face. A mouth, open wide, gaping against the fabric. Then I woke, sweating, gasping. There was a sound in the room. A voice, mine, softly whispering from a nightstand drawer where I'd hidden the old SIM card. I flung it open, grabbed the card, and crushed it under my heel. It split apart with a dry snap. Then my phone rang. 432-1185. Incoming call even with the SIM card destroyed. This time, I didn't answer. I watched the screen until the ringing stopped. No voicemail. But 5 minutes later, my phone turned itself on. The flashlight blinked twice. Then the screen lit up and opened the voice memos app on its own. I swear on everything, my hand didn't touch the screen. A new recording appeared, titled simply, 4:04 a.m., breathing at wave. I pressed play. The sound of breathing filled the room. It wasn't mine. It was too slow, too heavy, like someone asleep right next to the microphone, their lungs rasping with decay. Then the breathing paused, and a clicking noise started like nails tapping on glass. Then a voice spoke. "You used to know me." I dropped the phone. I unplugged everything in the apartment, lamps, chargers, router, and walked down to the 24-hour diner 2 blocks away, just to sit somewhere that didn't feel like it was being watched. I didn't sleep that night, but something worse happened the next morning. I received a voicemail, not a phone one, but through my Gmail inbox. An audio attachment, no subject, no sender. I opened on my laptop in the diner, still sipping bad coffee, barely holding it together. It was another voice recording, but this time, it was for me. The timestamp was from 2 nights ago, 3:13 nachts. I was speaking, but I didn't remember recording it. My voice was low, whispering. It said, "Don't answer the door, not even if it's me. He uses faces." Then silence. Then something else, a second voice layered faintly underneath mine. It sounded like me, but distorted. Wrong. Like it had too many teeth in its mouth. It whispered, "I'm already inside." Over the next few days, my call history began changing. New numbers showed up, old ones I used to know. Dead numbers. My father's cell. An old landline from a house we lived in when I was a child. My friend Andrew's number, the one he had before he died in a car crash in 2014. I didn't dare call them, but every night one of them would call me, always at 3:13 a.m. When I listened to the voicemails, they weren't what I expected. There were no messages from the dead, just static, whispers, and something worse, echoes of my own thoughts. One message repeated something I'd thought to myself earlier that day. If I throw the phone in the lake, maybe it'll stop. Another said, he knows about the drawer, about the SIM card. Another, you're talking to yourself again. By then, I had stopped sleeping altogether. My eyes were sunken. I spoke in short sentences to friends, barely made it through video calls for freelance jobs. I couldn't concentrate. I stopped leaving my apartment. I needed to know what this was, why it had chosen me, what the number meant. Then, one night, I had a breakthrough, or maybe just a breakdown. I was staring at the paper again, the number, just sitting there on my desk like it always was. And I realized it wasn't always the same. Each night, the handwriting changed just slightly, as if it was written by a different person. So I photographed it every night and compared the images. Over 6 nights, the number stayed the same, but the writing gradually morphed until I saw it. The last version wasn't a phone number at all. It was a date and time, 9:14 to 3:13 a.m., and beneath it, the message had changed too. That's when you died. I stared at the note, heart pounding so loud I could barely think. That date, it was only a few nights away. Was it a warning? A threat? Or just another piece of madness? I didn't know. But one thing was becoming clear. This wasn't just a haunting. It was possession of my memories, of my voice, of my identity. And it was counting down. They say sleep deprivation can mimic madness. You see things that aren't there, hear voices and white noise, and feel watched when you're utterly alone. But I wasn't just sleep deprived. I was haunted, not by a ghost, not by something dead, but by something listening, something alive in the signal. I hadn't slept more than an hour at a time in days. I had dark circles under my eyes, so deep they looked like bruises. My thoughts spiraled. Every time I picked up the phone, even to check the time, I flinched, expecting it to vibrate, to ring, to show that number again. But the number had stopped appearing. Now, the phone was doing something else. It was changing what I said. At first, it happened subtly. I'd send a text to my, hey, you okay? But later, when I checked the conversation, it would say, I hear him behind your voice. When I tried to call my bank about canceling my line, the automated system responded with, your death has not yet been processed. My voice wasn't mine anymore. Even in recorded video, something was off. I FaceTimed Jeremy to show him my apartment, to prove I wasn't imagining things. He laughed when I pointed to the walls and said I'd been hearing breathing. But then his face went white. Joe, Eli, he said slowly. You okay, man? What do you mean? You're smiling. I'm not. He turned his phone to record the screen and sent it to me right after. In the video, I looked blank, tired, pale until I spoke. As soon as I said, I swear I'm not making this up, my face shifted. Just slightly. My lips curled into a grin that didn't match the rest of my expression. My eyes stayed flat, hollow. But my mouth smiled on its own. Jeremy stopped answering after that. I didn't blame him. The night of September 13th, I barricaded myself inside my apartment. I was less than 24 hours from the date written on the paper. 9:14 to 3:13 a.m. That's when you died. I didn't know if it meant I die literally heart attack, stroke, push to suicide, or if it meant something more existential. That whatever I was would be gone, replaced, erased. The air in the apartment had changed. It smelled metallic, electric like burnt copper wires. I unplugged every device I could, except my phone, which refused to power off anyway. Every time I held the button, it would flash the Apple logo and restart whether I wanted it to or not. I tried smashing it with a hammer. The screen cracked, but 5 minutes later, it buzzed, lit up, and displayed a single message. You tried. I remember that. That message, it terrified me more than any voicemail, because it suggested something else. This wasn't the first time, not even close. That night, I made one final attempt to be rid of it. I drove 40 minutes to the old quarry, left the phone in a Ziploc bag sealed inside a lead-lined lockbox, and dropped it into the deepest water I could find. I stood there under the stars, staring at the rippling surface. And then my backup phone, the one I hadn't used in months, buzzed in my back pocket. Unknown number. No caller ID. I answered with shaking hands. There was no voice this time, just the sound of a phone ringing, like a call waiting to be answered. On the other end. Then I heard a knock, not over the phone, behind me. I turned, slowly. There was nothing there, just wind blowing through the trees and the hum of distant insects. But then I looked down and realized the phone was back, lying on the ground, screen up, cracked, blinking with a new voicemail. Received, 3:13 a.m., 9:14. The timestamp wasn't the current time. It was tomorrow's. The message was already waiting. I drove home in silence, heart thudding the entire way, refusing to play the voicemail. I left the phone in my trunk and locked it. I didn't want to know what was on that message. Not yet. I barely remember falling asleep. But I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to a sound so unnatural it left me breathless. My own voice, whispering from the hallway. Not a recording. Not the phone. Just my voice, echoing softly outside my bedroom door. It said, "Come to the mirror. I have something to show you." I didn't move. Then the doorknob began to turn, slowly. Softly. Not violently. Not like in a horror movie. But with eerie patience, as though the thing behind it already knew I would open the door eventually. I stayed frozen in bed. Then the voice spoke again, this time from the phone, still locked in the car. I heard it through the walls, as if the whole building were wired to echo it. "One more minute, Eli. Are you ready?" I didn't realize I'd started crying until my lips began to taste salt. My whole body shook, but I forced myself to move. I crept to the front door of the apartment. I was going to leave. Just walk out barefoot if I had to, run to the neighbors, call the cops, anything. But as soon as I touched the door handle, my phone vibrated in the hallway, even though it was still supposed to be in my trunk. I turned. There it was, sitting on the floor, screen glowing. One new voicemail. I didn't want to listen, but something told me. I had to, not because of curiosity, but because if I didn't, something worse would happen. I lifted the phone with trembling hands. The voicemail was short. My voice spoke calm, clear, empty. "It's 3:13 now. You've been replaced." When the voicemail ended, the phone screen turned black. No options to replay. No timestamp. Not even the backlight. It was like the device died in my hand, but left something behind. I sat on the floor until sunrise, too afraid to move, too terrified to sleep. And the whole time, I felt it, something hovering just beyond the edges of perception. Not a person, not a presence, but a listening. Like the act of me staying awake was being observed, recorded, cataloged. By morning, I felt no relief. In fact, I felt worse. Hollow. Like whatever tethered me to who I was had snapped just slightly in the night. My limbs felt foreign. My thoughts didn't seem private anymore. And the phone, I swear, it had moved. It was now on the kitchen counter and fully charged. Even though I'd watched it die, the next 2 days passed in a blur. I tried everything I could to reclaim normalcy. I called my work and took a leave. I texted my sister, though I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. I even walked down the street to grab coffee, trying to play pretend like I wasn't unraveling from the inside out. But every time I made contact with another person, whether a stranger, a barista, or a cab driver, they gave me a strange look. That momentary flicker of discomfort, like they were seeing something on me I couldn't feel. At first I thought it was paranoia, until the man at the corner store said, half under his breath, "You've got something on your face, man." I asked him what he meant. He shook his head, smiled awkwardly, and just said, "Never mind." But the second I walked out of the store, I checked my reflection in the glass, and it moved. I stayed still, but the reflection twitched. Just for a second. The mouth curled upward, then back down. The same smile Jeremy had recorded on video. That same unnatural grin. Later that night, my phone buzzed. Not a call, not a voicemail. A notification from an app one didn't install. The icon was plain, just a circle inside a triangle, black on black. The notification read, "Would you like to answer now?" Yes, no, there was no way to swipe it away. No back button. No home. I turned the screen off. It turned back on. "Would you like to answer now?" Yes, no, I tapped no. The screen went black again, then slowly faded into a single message. Someone else did. And below that, 0914. 3:13 nachts. Transmission complete. That phrase, transmission complete, stuck with me. Was it referring to a signal? A file? Me? Had I been transmitted? Was the me walking around just a copy now? A signal echo of my former self? I tried everything. Factory reset. Replacing the SIM. Even tossing the phone and buying a new one. But within 10 minutes of booting the new phone, the triangle circle icon reappeared. This time as an overlay, always there, faintly pulsing in the top corner of the screen like it was watching from inside the glass. My reflection now always grinned, no matter what emotion I wore, no matter the lighting, the camera, the mirror. My face had been rewritten. I visited a sleep specialist. I lied and said I was experiencing parasomnia, audio hallucinations, digital paranoia. They ran tests. The results came back inconclusive but concerning. I was showing abnormal EEG readings in deep sleep, patterns resembling epileptic seizure spikes, except I wasn't having seizures. The technician, a young woman named Vanessa, gently asked me if I'd ever been around high-voltage equipment, signal towers, or unusual interference patterns. I laughed it off, but then she said something that made my stomach twist. We had one other patient this year with something similar. A guy who kept hearing voices through his phone said his reflection didn't match his actions. "You remind me of him. What happened to him?" I asked. She hesitated. He disappeared. His apartment was found empty. Phone still on. The last thing he looked up was cell signal as contagion. The next voicemail came 3 days later. This time, there was no call, just a file on my phone, titled, "You've been selected." I didn't open it right away. Instead, I did something desperate. I took a hammer, duct tape, a lead box, and I locked my phone inside it. Then I called Maya, begged her to meet in person. I needed a tether, something real. Someone who could look me in the eyes and tell me I wasn't insane. When we met in the park, she hugged me hard and said I looked like death. My skin had turned pale, she said, almost gray in places. My eyes were bloodshot. I smelled like burnt plastic. I told her everything. The voicemails, the numbers, the message at 3:13 a.m., the reflection that wasn't mine, the app that wouldn't go away, the transmission warnings. She didn't laugh. She didn't pity me. She looked terrified. And then she said, "I've been getting them too." Maya showed me her phone, her call history, and sure enough, there it was. The same number I'd seen first. The one with the 000 prefix. The one with no carrier ID. When she tapped it, the screen glitched just for a second and then froze on a single image, a selfie of Maya. Mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. Eyes completely black. She didn't remember taking it. The file was dated 3:13 a.m., the same night as mine. We both sat on the bench in silence, processing. Then her phone buzzed. One new voicemail. She didn't press play. She just started crying. Soft, broken sobs. I asked her if she'd listened to any of them. She nodded slowly and said, "There's a voice that pretends to be you." I should have stopped checking the call history. I should have deleted the logs, smashed the phone, thrown the SIM card into the river, and walked away. But I didn't, because it had become like breathing, unconscious, automatic, constant. The list grew longer. Numbers I'd never dialed. Numbers that didn't exist. Most of them appeared between 3:10 and 3:20 a.m. Every single one was labeled outgoing. The calls lasted anywhere from 1 second to 1 minute. But the strange part was, I'd been asleep. Deep asleep, phone face down on the nightstand. No apps running. No voice commands enabled. I tried everything. I turned off Wi-Fi. I switched to airplane mode. One night, I powered the phone off entirely and left it across the room. Still, in the morning, it had 2 new outgoing calls logged. One of them to a number that ended in 6 repeating nines. +9 999 9999. I called my phone company again. I insisted on speaking to a supervisor. After waiting on hold for 40 minutes, a woman finally answered in a stiff, slow voice. "Hello, this is Clara. You're calling about outbound activity on your line." I explained everything again. The mysterious calls, the times, the repetition, the fact that they didn't show up on the bill or the carrier side logs, that I hadn't physically made them. There was a pause on the other end. "We've seen a few incidents like this," she said quietly. "Unconfirmed. Rare. Do you have a moment?" "What do you mean, unconfirmed?" I asked. Clara lowered her voice, as though she were leaning closer to the receiver. "May I ask, do the numbers ever repeat? Do any come back more than once?" I felt cold when I said yes. One had shown up 3 nights in a row. It ended in 8081. That number, when I searched it online, returned 0 results, no white pages, no scam alerts, no records of existence. Nothing. Just a digital void. "Don't answer if it calls back," she said quickly. "Don't pick up. And if you can, write down everything you hear, even if it doesn't make sense." I asked her what the hell was going on. "I can't say more," she whispered. "We're not supposed to log these tickets. They're flagged automatically and removed from our CRM. I only saw yours because you spoke to someone on the legacy system. You shouldn't be getting these. No one should. You need to be careful." The call dropped. I stared at the phone. The call duration read midnight. It hadn't registered. No record of it in the log. It was as if it hadn't happened. Later that week, I woke up to a new voicemail icon. But when I checked, there were no new messages. Just the icon, a taunt, a presence. I called my own voicemail line. It rang once and disconnected. That night, the dream came back. It wasn't really a dream. More like a replay. I saw myself lying in bed. I heard the phone buzz softly on the nightstand. I didn't reach for it, didn't wake. Then the screen lit up by itself. Not a notification, just a slow, spreading glow from underneath the screen, like something inside was pressing outward. A voice crackled through the speaker. Not mine. Not anyone's. It spoke a name. My name. Twice. Then it started breathing. The long, nasal sound of someone lying right next to you while you pretend to sleep. A rhythmic, slow draw and exhale. And then came a phrase, repeated like a chant, like it was learning to speak. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? The dream ended there. I woke up drenched in sweat. The phone was under my pillow. I hadn't moved it there. It was warm. On a dare, I enabled video calling and asked a friend to call me the next time the ghost call number showed up in my log. That night, just after 3:17 a.m., the 8081 number reappeared. It said I called them. Call duration, 47 seconds. I messaged my friend. Call me. Video. Now. He did. While I picked up, I saw his face for a second. Then the screen flickered. Split-second blackout. That it wasn't my friend anymore. It was me, or something wearing me. On the screen, my bedroom, my bed, my phone, all from the perspective of someone hovering above me. But I wasn't holding the phone. I was in bed, frozen, watching, and the screen was live, moving, real time. The thing smiled. Not my smile. It was stretching my face the wrong way, too wide, teeth too white. Eyes didn't blink. Then the screen cut to black. And the call log? It said, call with unknown, duration, midnight. My friend never called me, he said. I had called him, and when I asked if he saw anything on his side of the video, he said the screen showed a hospital bed, just for a second. Then static. The voices start responding up to this point. The calls and voices have been one way. Just creepy sounds, strange whispers. But now they were engaging. I started hearing them in real time. I'd be in the bathroom brushing my teeth and hear it from the hall. A small, distant voice. Are you awake? I'd pause. Listen. Then louder. I said, are you awake? Once I muttered yes under my breath, almost reflexively, and I heard a scratch, a literal fingernail dragging across the floorboards from inside the walls. My neighbor downstairs came up the next day to ask if I'd been moving furniture or something. He said it sounded like someone being dragged across the floor at 3 a.m., the therapist incident I finally cracked. I booked an emergency therapy session. I didn't tell the therapist everything, just said I'd been having disturbing dreams and phone issues. She nodded and listened. She asked, do you feel like you're losing time? Like you're being watched? I stared at her. Yes, I said. How did you know? She hesitated, then pulled out a file. Not mine. I saw another patient who said the same things. 2 years ago. Same call patterns. Same late-night messages. He said it all started after his phone showed a number in the logs that he hadn't dialed. What happened to him? She didn't answer. Instead, she flipped a page in the file and handed it to me. It was a printout of a number. The same +9, 999, 9999 that had shown up in my call history. And under it, scrawled in red ink, in someone's desperate handwriting, answering is agreement. Agreement means access. Access means entry. Entry means replacement. Where is he now? I asked. She looked up. I don't think he's the same. I don't know when the line between what's real and what isn't finally dissolved. Maybe it was the night I heard my mother's voice, clear and pleading, over a dead frequency, even though she'd been gone 6 years. Or maybe it was when I started keeping the phone turned off at night, burying it under pillows like I was trying to muffle a crying baby. But by part 6 of this story, if I had the luxury to label my life in parts, my world was so distorted, so infected, that the very concept of reality became useless. The night started like many others in those days, me awake, bloodshot eyes fixed on the dim glow of the phone, waiting for it to do something it shouldn't. I had stopped answering calls from the dead numbers. They still came. I had deleted call logs. They reappeared. I changed phones. Same numbers. Same voices. Each call wasn't just a wrong number, or a prank, or a glitch. They were familiar. Voices I shouldn't be hearing. Whispers that spoke in broken patterns of things only I knew. Childhood secrets. Guilty memories. Regrets I never voiced aloud. Worse still was the static. Not every call had voices. Sometimes I would answer and hear nothing but harsh, fractured static, like the kind from an old TV tuned to a dead channel. But if I listened long enough, something would move underneath it. I could hear breathing, or scraping, or what sounded like bones clicking together, soft and slow, like teeth grinding. One night I recorded it. That was a mistake. When I played the recording back, there was no static, no whispering, just silence. But when I left the phone on my nightstand that night, it played back on its own, volume rising slowly, painfully, until I woke up to a voice screaming my name from inside my own phone. Not through the phone, inside it. The speaker didn't even light up. The screen was black. I stopped sleeping after that. Days blurred into one another. I walked through the world like a ghost, jumping every time a phone rang near me, on a train, in a cafe, in someone else's hand. I avoided calls, even normal ones, even friends. That's when the burner phones started showing up. At first, it was just one left in a paper bag on my doorstep. A cheap prepaid thing with a cracked screen and only one number in the call history. Mine. It rang that night. I didn't answer. The next morning, there were 2 more left on my windshield, both powered on, both identical, both with my number stored as the only contact. By the 3rd day, I had 8 of them. They were always warm, like someone had just used them. I stopped going home. I tried checking into a hotel across town. Different SIM. Cash only. I left everything behind and used a burner of my own. But when I turned it on, the first message it displayed was, "Why did you leave us?" That night, I dreamt I was in a call center, endless rows of desks, each one manned by pale, slouched figures with blackened eyes, speaking into phones and whispers. They were all calling the same number. Mine? In the dream, I walked down the aisle between them, and as I passed each, they turned slowly to look at me. Their voices were uniform, robotic. Their whispers grew louder and clearer until I heard them say in unison, "Answer the phone." I woke up vomiting blood into the sink. By this point, I had tried everything. The police? They called it a delusion. Suggested I seek psychiatric help. Phone companies? No records of the numbers. No trace of the calls. Psychics? Scammers. Or worse, they heard something too and cut the session short, refunding me nervously, refusing a contact. I was alone. No, worse, I was being watched. I noticed the shifts in temperature in rooms with no vents. The shadows that stayed even after the lights were on. The faint buzzing noise that seemed to follow me, always in the back of my skull, like someone holding a phone against the bone. Then I started losing time. An hour here, 3 hours there. One day, I looked at the call history on my phone, and it showed I'd answered 10 calls in a row from dead numbers, all at times I had no memory of being awake. The recordings? My own voice, talking in circles, laughing, whispering something over and over. He's listening. He's learning. He's crawling through the wires. I had one friend left, Jared. I hadn't spoken to him in weeks, but desperation overruled pride. I showed up at his apartment unannounced, trembling, eyes wide and raw. He opened the door and immediately stepped back, his face pale. "You look like hell, man." I tried to explain everything. The calls, the voices, the breathing, the phones. To his credit, he listened. He didn't interrupt or laugh, just nodded slowly. Then he asked, "Have you ever tried answering all of them?" "What?" "The phones. The ones that keep calling. Answer all of them at once. That's not how phones work." He looked at me, serious, eyes empty. "Are you sure?" That night I went home. My actual home. I hadn't been there in days, maybe weeks. It smelled like something had died inside it. There were the burner phones, still where I'd left them, stacked neatly on the coffee table. 15 now, all fully charged, all displaying the same incoming call. No number, just a name, unknown, unknown, unknown. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I was beyond reason. Maybe I was already part of it. But I picked them all up, one by one, and I answered. I don't know how to begin this without sounding completely insane. Maybe I've already crossed that line. But I need to document everything now. Not for closure, there's no such thing. Not to warn others, because there's no way to stop it. I write this because I don't know how much longer I'll still be me. It's been 11 days since I destroyed my phone. Crushed it beneath a hammer, smashed the SIM, microwaved the remains. It should have ended everything. But the calls didn't stop. They just changed where they came from. It started with the static. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag the static that hums your name. It seeped into the walls. At first, I thought it was tinnitus, or my ears adjusting to the silence. But the hum came at exactly the same time the calls used to, 2:17 a.m. It was faint like a far-off radio station drifting in and out of range. And then the voice returned. Whispers. From inside the walls. From under the floorboards. From behind the vent. Always the same 3 words. "Pick up, Daniel." I don't know how they know my name. I never gave it out to whatever this is. It just knew. But what chilled me most was the familiarity in the voice. It wasn't that grating, broken rasp I'd heard before. It was my mother's voice. But Mom died in 2018, and she never sounded like that. Not really. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag doorways that shouldn't exist, the walls of my apartment changed. It sounds ridiculous, but I started noticing seams where there hadn't been any before. One night, I found a narrow crack behind my bookshelf, like the outline of a hidden door. It pulsed, as if breathing. When I pressed my hand against it, it was warm, wet. It exhaled, and the hum got louder. I saw something behind my eyelids then, something not from this world, an endless hallway of rotary phones, all ringing, all connected to nothing, each one tethered by a cord that led into the dark. Every night, I dreamed of it. Every night, I walked deeper. The moment I tried to tell someone about it, Emily, my sister, they called her, Not on her phone. On her TV. Static filled her screen, and she said my voice came through, begging for help. But it wasn't me. I hadn't spoken to her in 2 weeks. She blocked me. She's terrified. I started digging into the call history again, even though I had no phone. I printed out the logs from my carrier account before I destroyed everything. It listed dozens of calls that I never made. Numbers not tied to any area code in the U.S. Some starting with 000, others with codes that didn't exist. But the timestamps lined up with moments when I'd had blackouts. Moments where I lost time. And every number I traced led nowhere. Or worse, to people who had gone missing. One number went to Travis Bennett, a podcaster who specialized in paranormal radio signals. He'd vanished in 2014. His last known upload was just breathing and the sound of thousands of phones ringing. Another number matched the landline of Jody Mercado, a woman found dead in her apartment. Her ears were full of dry blood, hands still clutching a phone receiver. The call was still live when police arrived, though the line had been cut for years. There's a pattern here. The people who answer too often or too long disappear. Or worse, and I fear I've answered too many times. It came last night. I hadn't slept in 36 hours. The static wasn't just at 2:17 a.m. anymore. It was constant. The hum echoed through everything. The sink, the microwave, even the fridge motor. I was going mad, pacing when my landline rang. Yes, my landline. I didn't even realize it had been connected. I never used it. I thought I had unplugged it. The caller ID just blinked. Unknown 000000000. I should have ignored it. But the moment it rang, the walls began to bleed. Not blood, not exactly. It looked like tar, thick and bubbling, pushing out from the electrical sockets and seeping across the floor. So I answered, and I heard myself. Not like I was listening to a recording, but me speaking in real time. I was screaming, begging, pleading, saying things I didn't understand. Don't go through the hallway. Don't listen to the baby crying. It's not a baby. If you go into the ringing, you'll become the voice next time. Then it cut off, and everything went silent. There's a door in my hallway that didn't exist yesterday. I swear to you it wasn't there. It's the same shape as the seam I found behind my bookshelf. It's slightly ajar. A pale blue light pulses through the crack, like the glow of a phone screen in the dark. I know if I open it, that's it. That's the final call, the one you can't hang up. But I have to know. I have to see what's behind it. I'm bringing this document with me. I've printed it and sealed it in an envelope marked if found. Read this. Because if I'm gone by morning, this is all that will remain of me. Of Daniel Shore. You've reached Daniel. I can't come to the phone right now, but leave a message. Help me. Please. It's not dead. It's the signal. It's using me. Daniel Shore was reported missing 5 days after his final known contact. His apartment was found empty. No sign of forced entry. The only item left on his kitchen table was an old rotary phone, still ringing when police entered. The number was calling? His own.